In this video, James Hurr gives me 5 things producers need to know. Let's jump in. Hey, it's Graham Farmer from Data Transmission, and today on my YouTube channel, I'm joined by James Hurr. He is a production, mastering, engineer, extraordinaire, an amazing guy. He knows his stuff when it comes to producing music, producing electronic music. He's produced for people like Mark Knight, Prok and Fitch, amongst many others. And he joined me on my Twitch channel. I'm a Twitch partner now, and there's a link below to join me on Twitch. And check in the card for more about my Twitch partnership. And I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays over on Twitch. And on my Twitch channel, we have brand new interviews all the time. We have A&R sessions where we've actually got tracks signed. So if you're looking to get music signed, come and join us on Twitch. And he joined me to give me his 5 things producers need to know. Let's jump into them. Okay, let's ask you your 5 things producers need to know. What are they?
Okay, God, I think of 500 things, to be honest, but
Great.
biggest thing always. And I notice, because I do a lot of mix downs, I do mastering for kind of major labels, anywhere from kind of complete amateurs to, you know, professional guys who, you know, like Basement Jacks and people like that. And I've noticed that the common thing, that's kind of the common sort of mistake that people make, is when they're producing, they don't necessarily think about how that will sound against other tracks, or where that's going to fit. So I think that the easiest tip, and the thing that actually got my productions and mixes sounding way better than they were previously, was bringing into the environment, bringing 2 tracks or 3 tracks as reference tracks, and just listening to them and analysing them in the same production environment in your DAW to see how loud they are. Where's the kick drum? How loud is the kick drum? Right, well, if you want your track to be played alongside this track at a festival, on radio, on Spotify, in a club DJ set, whatever, it's got to sound as loud and as bright and as wide and have all of these kind of factors. So yeah, bringing in some reference tracks of songs that you know work really, really well in the club, or for whatever purpose you're trying to achieve. So, you know, like bring a Mark Knight record into your environment and see where the kick set sits, like how loud the hi-hats. And that way, I think that's fundamentally important, because you have to think of like who's going to hear it and where. And if, you know, you may make a fantastic track, but if it's not going to sound right against other tracks, then where is it going to be heard? And that's a big question to ask. So fundamentally, just bringing other people's tracks into your that you know sound good into your mixing environment for reference is great. Through mistakes, I've learned it that way, not listening to other people's tracks. And then I'm like, hey, I've made this track, you're trying to get DJs to play it, or then I played it in a set and I've been like, well, for start, the waveform's too quiet, it's, you know, it doesn't sound as wide, it's just that the sound choice is wrong, and it's just so apparent when you hear that, and it's obvious. And if someone else had sent me that track to DJ out, I just wouldn't play it. I would give it, you know, I'd be, even in the headphones, I'd be like, no, this is not right. And you know, it's a highly competitive market. You've got to, if you want that DJ to play your record, well then look at exactly the sort of music that they play. Or if you want your label, a certain label, to release your music, well, listen to how it sounds, because, you know, your thing might be great. You know, I think all creativity is brilliant and inspiring. But if you want certain labels and certain DJs to play your music, then it has to sound like the thing that they're doing. Just sonically, that the picture has to be very similar. And I think people overlook that quite dramatically, and then get frustrated why you know that label won't sign their record.
That's so interesting. Like, yeah, if you want a certain DJ to play, like, listen to the tracks they're playing and just make it fit into what they're playing, and like it makes sense. Okay, yeah. Number 2.
I think most people tend to know this, but side chaining the bass of the kick, I think that's always fundamentally important for any mix. I have all my kicks at like always 0 dB or -1, like, as you know, as loud as you possibly can without distorting. And you know, there's not room for 2 for a bass and a kick. It's just at the same time. So yeah, side chaining. If you don't side chain your bass lines to your kick drum, I would strongly suggest do that. Use a multi-band side chain as well if you want to preserve some of the top harmonics of the bass, so it doesn't sound like it's just ducking constantly. Yeah, that's my number 2 tip. And if you do that, you'll already be halfway there to making good sounding tracks.
Are you enjoying the first 2 of those 5 things? If you are, consider subscribing. Hit the little red button below, or give it a little thumbs up. It will really help this video get further. It will show it to other people. Let's carry on with more 5 things.
Number 3.
Okay, mixing vocals, always pay attention to vocals. Like, I do tons of remixes, absolutely tons, under loads of different names, and I've noticed like a lot of producers aren't used to using vocals and doing that. So I think you treat the vocal like it's a part of the track and like it's an instrument as well. Be wary that the vocal might be percussive and that you will need to EQ it, and you may even need to sidechain it at times, and make sure that the words are audible, because the number one comment that comes back from every A&R man, and I think every remixer will tell you this, is turn the vocals up. So, because they can't hear them, because they get sort of buried in the track somewhere in the distance. So, yeah, I would say be very, very wary of vocals and where they sit, and make them sound like they're EQ'd as part of the track, not like they're just flown in from somewhere else. Yeah, that just doesn't work.
They're sat in quarantine somewhere and just on a different level.
Yeah, exactly. Number 4, mastering doesn't really fix as much as people think it fixes. I would say, I don't know, 10% of the tracks I do get mastered, and occasionally, sometimes they come back and, without trying to blow my own trumpet too much, they come back and go, there's nothing we can do to this. I think if you just mix things right with the right sound design, right sound choice, and using kind of other tracks as a reference, it's possible to make a track sound mastered without using any mastering. So I will say the one plugin, and you'll see this in my kind of track breakdown later, that my mastering chain is 1 or 2 plugins. And the first one is an inflator, which is a digital clipper, so it doesn't compress or limit. It cuts the transient tops off the mix and allows you to make the track really, really loud without any ducking, and it just turns the loudness, it gets more distorted the louder it goes. And if you balance that right, you end up operating at a kind of nice level of harmonic distortion throughout the track, and it sounds really loud. And I have that set on one setting on my master out, and then I have a brick wall limiter after that to create to remove any intersample peaks. So it kind of sounds a bit complicated, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you think the mastering is going to fix it, it probably won't. I think just making sure the fundamentals of the track are correct. If it's a dance track, like well, that's my speciality. Your kick, your snare, your hi-hat, claps, your bass. That's all super important. If you don't get those elements right, I don't think any mastering engineer can kind of work miracles. And some mastering studios might replace your kick and things if they can see an opening for it, and they might not even tell you that they've done that. So they're essentially additionally producing your track. They're not actually mastering it as such. So that's good. And I think a lot of people, and I had that, I just thought the mastering fixed everything when I started out. And I was just so wrong so many times. And if you just incrementally just learn a little bit more about how to improve the sonics of your mix and how to give everything space and make it balanced, you don't need to get it mastered. And actually, okay, one other thing. So here's the fifth thing as well, which is a little offshoot from that, is that people use limiters way too much. And you say, why have you put a limiter on that? And half the time they don't know why. It's just because that's what they think they're supposed to do. And I kind of use hardly any limiters. I think they're kind of, if you don't really know what you're doing with them, they can just make the sounds have less impact, and they're a useful tool in the right place. But I think just putting a limiter on everything is not a great idea, because it's just going to make it sound quieter usually. And in dance music, we like things to sound loud. Yeah. We like things to be in your face.
That's 5. Perfect. Amazing. Have we got a Brucey bonus, or are we at the 5?
Brucey bonus. Okay, right. The Brucey bonus is, and this is
for the speedboat.
The speedboat and the cuddly toy. I would say distortion is a key to making things sound louder, and always be wary of every sound. Always be wary of the transient, the attack of the sound, and always be wary of rather than turning up, try and add some sort of distortion to it, because that actually might make it the overall volume quieter, but make it sound louder in the mix. And that is what you strive for when you're mixing down, is you always want to create more space in the mix, but you want stuff to sound bigger. And by adding distortion, you'll go, oh, hang on a minute, that's actually peaking at a lower volume, but it sounds louder. So, and distortion essentially is just kind of adding more harmonics and more noise to a sound. So that is a fantastic tip. Wow. And using distortion plugins to make stuff sound better and more interesting really, really does help. Some distortion plugins absolutely destroy sounds and make them sound awful, so be wary. But I think a little bit of distortion on most things is going to increase the harmonics, make it sound more interesting, more live, more real, and it's also going to give your kind of mix a bit more room. You can add a bit of distortion, you can turn it down quite a bit, and it's a great tip. When I learned that through just messing around with plugins, it blew my mind.
That's amazing. Thank you. They're amazing. Thank you very much. Everyone's loving them in the chat.
Okay. Awesome.
Apparently it deserves a... We have a rave horn, pew, 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 and apparently those tips deserve the rave horn, pew, pew, pew.
Excellent.
Did you enjoy those 5 things producers need to know? Which was your favourite? Which one you got the most value out of? Comment below and let me know. I'd really love to know. I really love to know if you're enjoying this series as well. If you enjoyed this video today, come and join me on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, 1 p.m. till 5 p.m. The link's below. Or I'll see you in the next video. See you later. Bye.